The night was dark and gloomy when Jane went for a walk through the old abandoned cemetery. She did not believe in ghosts and believed that all these stories were nothing more than fiction. But when she heard a rustle behind her, the breath of an ominous ghost persistently touched her skin. She felt an ominous chill pierce her to the marrow of her bones. Jane turned around and saw a hideous ghost standing in front of her. His eyes were burning with green fire, and his hands were covered with ominous dark spots. He began to approach her, making repulsive noises, and Jane realized that she would have to run for her life. She rushed forward, but it seems that the ghost was only accelerating and getting closer. Jane ran without looking back until she finally collided with an old monument. She turned around and saw that the ghost had disappeared. She felt incredibly relieved, but at the same moment realized that this was just the beginning of a nightmare. After all, now she did not know what exactly had saved her from this sinister ghost, and whether he would be watching her. Jane felt that this was not the end, and that the sinister ghost would continue to haunt her until he got what he needed. Jane rushed home in fear, trying to wipe the ominous impression of a ghost out of her head. She lit all the lights and checked every corner of her apartment, but found no trace of the ghost anywhere. She took a shower in an attempt to get rid of the terrible feeling of his touch, but even in the water she still felt the cold of his ghostly fingers. Jane sat down on the bed and resigned herself to the fact that the ghost would not leave her. Began to remember her past. She remembered that once upon a time her grandmother had told her about a mysterious ghost that haunted their family members and gave them unbearable torments. Her grandmother died when Jane was still a child, and she had no way to find out from her the details about this curse. Then Jane decided to turn to her old friend, Psychic Ryan, hoping that he could help her get out of this nightmare. Ryan agreed to help and came to meet her. He performed a cleansing ritual and made some predictions that left Jane in shock. Ryan announced that this is an unusual ghost, but an evil spirit that is associated with the 7 demons, ancient entities of evil and destruction. This spirit was sent to punish their family for the sins committed by their ancestors in the past. Ryan claimed that in order to expel the spirit, they would need to find a crucifix, which, according to legend, could destroy the connection of this spirit with their family. Otherwise, it would haunt them until death. Hooked on legends and auras of fear, Jane and Ryan set off on a dangerous adventure to uncover the secrets of the past and save their family's future. They faced mystical trials, battling unknown evil and uncovering the secrets of the dark past. But the most terrible moment was still ahead of them, because the spirit of the 7 demons had been released, and his anger knew no limits. Jane and Ryan's journey took them to various ancient places of power, mysterious abandoned temples, and monstrous vanished cities. Every step was full of dangers, battles with demonic entities and mystical obstacles that seemed indestructible. But Jane's tenacity and Ryan's wisdom overcame all difficulties, and they found the stolen crucifix, an ancient artifact filled with powerful energy. They returned to their hometown to use the crucifixion, and it was here, according to Ryan's predictions, that the spirit was to be finally expelled from their family clan. However, when they came to the place where the ceremony was to be held, they discovered that the spirit had been able to enter the world of the living, and now it wanders around them unhindered, filled with rage and thirst for revenge. Jane and Ryan knew that they needed to act quickly, otherwise the spirit of the 7 demons could enslave their hometown forever. They set to work trying to create protective fences of magical symbols to ward off the demonic spirit, but its power was too great. It was at this moment that Jane remembered an old legend that talked about how you can catch a spirit in a network of light and power to disconnect it from the world. They decided to use this legend and lure the spirit into a trap of brilliant patterns and lights. The spirit, fighting ferociously, got into the net, and Ryan began to cast ancient spells to sever the spirit's connection with their family tree. The light eclipsed the darkness, and the universe rang with tension. It seemed endless for a moment, then the light disappeared, and they realized that they had successfully exorcised the spirit of the 7 demons. They hugged, both tired and exhausted, but realizing that their ordeal was just the beginning. After all, now they have to confront not only the spirit, but also its true masters, the 7 demons. The battle is just beginning, and the stake is the universe in its entirety. An ominous movement began in the universe, foreshadowing something dark and powerful. And Jane and Ryan realized that the real test was still ahead. After exorcising the spirit of the 7 demons, Jane and Ryan set about investigating the source of the mystical invasion. They discovered that the 7 demons seek to bring the spirit back to the world of the living and revive it in a more powerful form. Upon learning about this, Jane and Ryan realized that this was only the beginning of a new, more dangerous stage of the struggle. In their search, they turned to ancient magical texts and legends, trying to uncover secrets that could help them defeat the 7 demons. At the same time, they realized that magic alone could not cope with such a powerful evil, and they needed to join forces with other defenders of the world. Jane and Ryan set out in search of an alliance with secret orders and groups associated with the protection of the mystical balance. They found allies in the faces of learned magicians, spiritual warriors from ancient orders, and various sacred oracles, all joining together to resist the great evil. However, as the 7 demons grew in strength, their alliance felt increasingly vulnerable. Unexpected betrayals and mystical conspiracies disrupted their plans, and they began to realize that the 7 demons had agents and supporters in the most unexpected places. The situation became increasingly tense, and an ancient warning sounded in the depths of the world about the coming King of Darkness, a powerful being who was, as the ancients believed, summoned by 7 demons to rule the world by eternal night. Jane and Ryan understood that in order to prevent the impending catastrophe, they needed to enter into an extremely dangerous deal with the forces of light, magic, and sacrifice, otherwise the world would soon plunge into total darkness, and no one would be able to stop the King of Darkness if he was reborn. The only question is whether they will agree to this and what sacrifices they will have to make to save everything, putting their lives and souls in danger. Jane and Ryan decided to pledge their full dedication to save the world. They went in search of an ancient artifact known as the Spark of Light, which, according to legend, had the power to stop the return of the King of Darkness. The journey was grueling and full of dangers. They faced treacherous traps and trials, seemingly invented by the darkness itself to prevent them from reaching their goal. But thanks to their determination, friendship, and wisdom, they were able to overcome all obstacles and find themselves at the gate leading to the place where, as the legends said, the Spark of Light was kept. When they came to the artifact, they felt the power and ancient wisdom contained in it. However, they also realized that the bite of light has to preserve eternal opposition to darkness and condemn themselves to eternal vigil and sacrifices that inevitably follow, with a heavy heart and understanding of the merits and dangers of their choice. Jane and Ryan took a spark of light and vowed to protect it from evil forces. They hoped that this action would bring them a guarantee of our peaceful life and well-being for all, but at the same time, they also understood that their lives would now be spent fighting against darkness and evil. Now, with a spark of light at their disposal, Jane and Ryan shared a look of determination, but at the same time, The lords of the 7 demons had already begun to move in the darkness, and the powers of the King of Darkness were becoming stronger. The threat was coming, and the time for the duel of light and darkness was getting closer, and with each step it gained in proportions. They understood that they were faced with a task that had not been equaled since the time of ancient legends, and they were just beginning to realize the horror and dangers associated with their choice. Keeping a spark of light, Jane and Ryan entered the Lodge of Power, intending to confront the resurgent threat. They fought the 7 demons and the powerful King of Darkness. Their dedication and determination were impeccable, but the sinister forces they faced turned out to be too great. Initially, the world went to their side, and at one point all the forces of darkness seemed to be defeated. However, suddenly, when it seemed that victory was in hand, darkness engulfed Jane and Ryan's consciousness. It was at this moment that they realized that all their efforts had been laid as part of an ingenious conspiracy of ancient dark forces. Suddenly, they realized that the spark of light had been used as bait all this time, to plunge the light influence into an ambush and undermine its by no means light essence. So Jane and Ryan fell into an insidious, sinister plot. Their sacrificial act turned against them, and the whole world was on the verge of division and destruction. But then, suddenly, a spark of light shone again, emitting a stunning light that pierced through all the darkening shadows. A vague feeling awoke in their souls, and the fear disappeared. The spark of light opened. It turned out to be far from an empty shell, but the hidden essence of divine love and hope. The dark forces hoping to use her powers faced an unspeakable force of light that was able to destroy the planned evil. And then Jane and Ryan realized that the purpose of the spark of light was not just to do good, but to provide them with a means so that they themselves could gain wisdom in the fight against darkness, to decide their own fate, to unravel the labyrinths of evil and good, and find the way to true salvation. Thus, the mysterious magic of the spark of light opened the doors of a new path for Jane and Ryan, full of dangers and secrets, but also hope and light. The unexpected ending of a nightmarish journey in the dark was the beginning of their great adventure in the world of living light, where new challenges and mysteries await them, unexplored worlds and opportunities await them, and their spirit-filled future